Section of the stadium. This is
Welcome to the Old Senate Chamber.
Thank you very much. Terrific place. Thank you for taking the time to be here.
It's great to be here with you both.
Good to see you, Governor.
George Washington and I would love to welcome you to the State House.
He snuck in.
This is a tremendous slice of history right here.
Well, two people that could get along with people from both sides, right? You and George Washington, right?
That's the first time I've ever been, compared to George Washington, so thank you, David.
Governor, so awesome to see you down here. Not normal times, right?
It's been a
Yeah.
challenging and difficult time,
Yeah.
but I'm really proud of the people of Maryland and where we are in the whole process.
And
We're going to get through this.
And David, thank you, because I knew that when I asked you to come down and we would see the governor and be in this special room, that offering you just the crab cakes and coddies would probably not be enough. We had to do more than that. In this old Senate chamber, please, why don't you please comment on this chamber,
Well,
Scott, 'cause you know it so well.
Early in my term is when we finished this project. It took years, and they took it back to exactly the way it was. Back when the Continental Congress was meeting here, this is the first peacetime capital of the United States after the Revolutionary War, right here, standing right here in this spot, George Washington resigning his commission as commander of the Continental Forces and ratifying the Treaty of Paris right here, ending the Revolutionary War. It's really an incredible spot. And people say, why is it, it's looked kind of stark, but this is what it was like when we had those representatives from the colonies come in. It's just an incredible piece of history and my favorite part of the State House.
Is this one of the oldest state capitals still in operation in the country?
This is the oldest continually operated State House in America. We've been meeting here ever since George Washington without break. Some places are restored or they may have not met, but we're still doing things here. We have a new Senate chamber and House chamber down the hall, but this is a very important part of history and we're proud of it.
And I get a kick out of this up here, David, the statue of Molly Rideout. They called that the ladies' balcony because they weren't allowed here. And the Rideout family still has a lot of land, within a short walking distance of where we are. And she's the one who said something to the effect of never has a man so good and so special to the country ever lived than George Washington. And so Molly Rideout became part of history as well.
It's a tremendous piece of history. I don't know if you noticed, these chairs are all completely different. They had apparently bought some chairs for the Continental Congress that the ship didn't make it through a storm, I think, on the Chesapeake Bay. I think that's the story. And so they had to run around some of the neighbors and take their dining room chairs so they don't match. They came from multiple different houses to host Congress.
So what's the best part of being governor?
I really love, I just love being out with the people. So there's a lot of tough decisions, you have a lot of power and influence, and we get to make a difference in people's lives. And my favorite part is just being out and meeting people all over the state from all walks of life and hearing their concerns and trying to do everything we can to help them.
Let's talk about money and investments.
I think he's probably much more able to talk about that than me.
No, it's different time. It's different type of money. State of Maryland, stimulus dollars that are coming to our state, almost like investment dollars.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at Carlisle, you announced a new fund that over the next 4 years you'll work to raise, and it will be by far the largest fund in the history of Carlisle, and there's been some large funds. So from an economic outlook, state of Maryland, the region, rest of this year, 2022, what's it look like? And where's the money fit into to really getting the engines revved up even faster?
Well, so we've been focused for the past year on balancing the health and the economic recovery and trying to worry about our small businesses and keep people employed while also saving lives. And it's been a tough balancing act. The great news is now with the real success of the vaccine program, and we're hopefully going to beat down this virus and get to the point where I think our economy can come roaring back. We did talking about bipartisanship, the same day I was in the White House pleading with the president to work in a bipartisan way on their relief bill, I came back here and passed a $1 billion economic relief and stimulus bill, including tax cuts and help for struggling families and small businesses. And we passed it nearly unanimously with Democrats and Republicans. But so we did state relief. We have had a number of rounds of stimulus from the federal government that I was involved in helping to negotiate with the NGA. And I think all that's going to make a difference. I mean, my concern is perhaps, the risk of inflation or we're pumping too much money out there. But I really think we're getting people back to work. Our economy's doing better than the rest of the country, better than most other states. But it's been a struggle. And so we've got to get people back to work and get our small businesses particularly back on track.
David, different capital over, it's not stimulus dollars at Carlisle, it's investors who are looking for a return. So when you look at Carlisle, rest of this year, 2022, different goals and objectives, but what's the outlook as you go forward?
The economy of the United States is in reasonably good shape and is probably going to grow at 6% or more this year because we've been stimulating it with borrowed money and help from the Fed. The real challenge is this: before the virus hit, the country was becoming a tale of two cities. Those people that are wealthy and in the financial service world, they're okay, we're doing fine. The people that are not as well educated, that are working with their hands, that are depending on week-to-week checks to stay alive, those people weren't doing well. Now they're doing much worse. So we have a situation now that if we don't really help the people that are the economic underclass, they're going to fall so far behind that their ability to catch up is never going to happen in our lifetime. And so the real trick in governing now is making certain people at the bottom are doing well, not people like me, I'm in good shape, but people who are unemployed, people that can't afford child care, people that don't have college educations, people that don't have high school degrees. Those are people that are really in trouble. And I think that's what we have to figure out, how we're going to solve that problem. Because if we can do that, we can live up to the dreams that people like George Washington had when they created this country. If we don't do that, we're going to be a country where we're going to have the haves and the have-nots, and they're never going to meet anywhere in between.
And I hate to think that finding that solution is almost as challenging as finding the vaccine that could immunize people against COVID. Well, to come up with that formula.
A vaccination process, historically vaccines take 4 to 7 years to develop. The fastest one ever developed was really for 4 years. The polio vaccine took 7 years. To get a vaccine developed in less than a year is heroic. It shows how incredible the science establishment and credibility is of our science people is just so great. But it's not just getting people vaccinated because we have the vaccines. We have to get people to be willing to be vaccinated. Right now, about 20-some% of adult males are not willing to be vaccinated. And we can't force people to be vaccinated. And so you don't really get herd immunity if you have large parts of the population saying it's not something for me. Now, I understand there are historic reasons why some people are concerned about vaccinations, but we need to do a better job of convincing people it's really good for them to be vaccinated and good for the country. And if we can get herd immunity and most people get vaccinated, the economy will be better. We just have to make sure it's okay for the people at the bottom.
Yeah.
Any more thoughts there, Governor?
On the vaccines, you're absolutely right, David. For a long time now, for several months, there's been huge demand and very little supply. Now we have a lot more vaccines coming, and it's about to turn, which I predicted in early January. We're going to reach that point where we have more vaccines, and we're going to be out trying to convince people to take it. About 60% of the people in America really want that vaccine. 20% are anti-vax. They really do not want it under any circumstance. There's that 20% that are sort of persuadable, that we've got to do everything possible to convince them so we can get to 80% or so and get that herd immunity. And so our efforts are sort of shifting more towards convincing people and finding them where they are, getting the vaccines out to them, as opposed to before it was like, why can't I get a vaccine? There just wasn't a supply.
There was an effort years ago to try to convince people that vaccines were causing autism in children. And there was no scientific evidence of that, but some people bought into that, and some people have the view that vaccines are just not a good thing for you, and they avoid them. And then people in the minority community, many of them said, well, we've been subjected to some bad vaccinations, other things by the government of the United States many years ago, and maybe we're still a little bit gun-shy about this. So I would just say that we have to do a better education job throughout the country of saying, look, this is the best thing for humanity, best thing for the country, but it's not going to be easy. There are some people that are philosophically against vaccinations or anything the government's telling them they should do.
And then there's huge disinformation campaigns on both the right and the left that are spreading information about the vaccine that just isn't true. We were the first state in the nation to put together a vaccine equity plan, where we've got a general from our National Guard, African-American female, General Janine Burkhead, who's heading that up, and we're going into every community to try to do everything we can to make sure that folks in underserved communities are getting a chance to get a vaccine. And we've got a several $million PR campaign with multiple commercials of leaders in the community talking about why it's so important, people that they would respect and listen to.
You know, Ronald Reagan humorously used to say when he was campaigning, the most dangerous words in the English language are, I'm here from the federal government, I'm here to help you. And to some extent, people really have bought into the idea, not just because of Ronald Reagan, but the idea of the federal government saying you should do something, be leery. And that's unfortunate because this is really a good thing for people.
And your comment about Operation Warp Speed, getting that multiple vaccines candidates through, and that it's never been accomplished before. We're so lucky to have that, and now the supply is finally being manufactured and distributed. It's going to save a lot of lives.
Maybe it'll change the culture of drug development going forward.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll say, why can't we put a lot of drugs on a faster track then?
And as you know, Mike, as former Commerce Secretary, the biopharma cluster in Maryland is critically important. We got so many companies. I'm very proud that more than 40 Maryland companies have been involved in either vaccines or therapeutics or testing. They've been part of this. We've played an outsized role for our small state in this whole vaccine effort.
Well, NIH, which is in Maryland, has been responsible for a lot of the development here. Tony Fauci works at NIH, of course, and Francis Collins is the head of it, and they've done a spectacular job. But once people are vaccinated, what they should do is figure out what the governor's program is to lose weight. He's been spectacular. And I would like to find the vaccine that he's used to lose weight, because I need to lose weight. I've gained so much pounds since COVID that I got to figure out how to lose weight. So I'm going to figure out.
Well, thank you for noticing, David. And I'll give you all my secrets. But I mean, quite frankly, I joke that with all the stress and the being in the house and not getting the exercise, I had put on what I call the COVID-19. It was sort of like the freshman 15. You know, I gained about 19 pounds. So comorbidities, the number one problem. We're seeing younger people that were overweight, and that was, according to Dr. Redfield, Dr. Fauci, one of the worst things. So I said, if ever there was a time to get on a diet, it's during COVID.
The real key, David, was his wife got the chef to lock up the cheesecake. I mean, when the cheesecake got locked up, you started losing weight.
There's no cheesecake.
David, new normal.
It's always tempting to say that we're in a historic moment at time when something happens that's unusual, and therefore the rest of the world will change forever. It's dangerous to say that because sometimes people revert to the norm. But I do think, despite what I've just said, that people are going to live differently for a long time. People are not going to travel quite as much. People may be concerned about big crowds for a long time. And people are going to use technology like Zoom to communicate much more than they did before. So think about it. The Industrial Revolution changed the way we live in 70 years or so, over a 70-year period of time. The internet changed the way we live over a 20-year period of time. The smartphone, over 5 years, we've changed the way we live. Just in 1 year, because of COVID, we've changed the way we live, and I'm not sure we're going to go back to where we were before. In many ways, that's a good thing, but we have to make certain we don't let go of the good things that we had before, which is camaraderie, getting people together. Social interchange is a very good thing, and you can't really do it over Zoom completely.
So if you're saying your culture is one who embraces change, this is not a bad thing, if you can get comfortable with change.
Everybody says they like change until they have to change what they do, right? So yeah, I'm in favor of change. Who's against change? But you have to remember that change is not something that the humans do quickly, and when you get to be my age, it happens more slowly. So I want to have change, but I want to have change that I like. And right now, I like some of the changes that have occurred. I don't have to travel quite as much, but I wonder what I'm going to do when somebody says, can you come for a half-hour meeting halfway around the world? Am I going to say, well, I really don't care about this anymore, I don't want to see you? Or I'm going to say, yes, I'll get on the plane. I don't know.
Well, David and I have he's interviewed me in person, and we did a Zoom, and I was like, it'd be great to see him, but neither one of us had to travel anymore.
I do want to say, as a witness to the interview that you all did about 60 days ago, that I did hear him make a job offer.
I thought that's what I thought.
That's what I heard.
I think he made a suggestion about me going into private equity.
He said,
but-
have you ever
Well-
considered mankind's greatest,
The highest calling of mankind, I've often said, is private equity, and
and he asked you if you have ever considered it.
Well, but let me say this, Mike. You have a lot of guts because David is a world-class interviewer. The best interview I've ever done was with him a couple of times, and for you to think that you could get up here and interview him, it takes a lot of courage.
Hey, let's,
Well, let me tell you, just say you were talking about change and things that make change and how fast that happens. How about standing right here in this room with George Washington? What a change that made, the impact that we've had for several hundred years now because of what happened in this room when they ratified the Treaty of Paris and where Washington was the first person to ever turn over his powers to a civilian government yet to be formed.
Governor, so great to see you. So fabulous to see you.
Mike, thank you.
And David, welcome to the State House. Welcome to George Washington's house.
well, thank you for inviting me, and Governor, thank you very much for showing up.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
David. It's great to be with you. Mike, it's good to see you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Governor. Thank you.